Welcome to the Prolific Pulse podcast. Today, our guest is Kim Dower. Kim Dower is no stranger to poetry and poetry success. She has been stated to be unexpected and sublime by O Magazine, bold and sexy and smart by Stephen Dunn, Pulitzer Prize winning poet, a moving blend of sexual experimentation and loss, a library journal. Following the commercial and literary success of her best-selling poetry collection, I Wore This Dress Today for You, Mom, Poems of Motherhood, Kim Dower delivers what she wants, poems on obsession, desire, despair, euphoria, turning her keen eye, vibrant imagination, trademark insight, and humor to the intensity of obsessive love. Welcome, everybody. This is Lisa Tomizanaville from Prolific Pulse Press, LLC, and this is the Poet Talk with Kim Dower. Welcome, Kim, to our program.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's great to be here. And I love talking to you. So here we go.
Oh, thank you. Now, Kim is all the way from California, but she's originally from New York, and rumor has it she flies back to New York about once a year and enjoys some of that good culture and then heads back to California. So I'd say that's the best of both worlds.
It's very nice. Yeah, I thought you were going to say and flies back to California where there is no culture. I thought you were going to finish the sentence. um, but yes, it is the best of both worlds. I miss New York a lot, but then I miss, I love Los Angeles. It's a great city. And yeah, so I feel very lucky.
A cousin who's a casting director out there.
Mm.
Her homie's also her name. And but anyway, she's uh, probably about my age, so young still. And so anyway, but she's pretty well known in the field.
Ah,
But she's from around that area. She lives in around Anaheim right now. But I want to
okay.
show the book cover for Kim's
Yeah,
book,
thank you.
what
These are
she wants.
it's the galleys we call them, the arcs. So the little cute little hen is the hen for Red Hen
Now you
Press
can't see it.
Publishers. But yeah, I'm very excited. It's going to be coming out January 14th in hardcover, which is a thrill, you know.
Hardcover.
Yeah, really thrilling to me. And the cover is a Salvador Dali painting.
I actually
So
looked it up this time.
it what?
I looked it up. I went pulled up
Oh,
the painting online and I kind of want a copy of it. Uh, Boy,
yeah,
this piece.
it's very cool. So yeah,
So are you going to have this in hardcover only, or is it coming out in other versions as well?
I think they're going to bring out the paperback in a year.
In a year, okay.
Yeah. So that's exciting.
You don't see too many poetry books coming out in hardcovers. That's really neat. That's
I know, I
exciting.
feel very honored.
Yeah.
The book before this one, I Wore This Dress Today for You, Mom, they did in hardcover, and it's just the most beautiful book. So I was so in love with it that I did say, "Oh, please, can we do this one in hardcover?" They were very kind to me, Red Hen Press, and but I think that they're both very much gift books, also because the other one is was a big gift book for and around Mother's Day, and
Oh,
yeah, continues to sell around Mother's Day. And what she wants, poems on obsession, desire, despair, euphoria, is it's sort of the anti-love poem, but I thought about bringing it out in January for a February for a Valentine's Day gift
mhm.
because we don't all have great Valentines. We have sometimes very sad Valentine stories.
Yeah.
And why not celebrate with a book? you know.
Exactly. Wow. So what I'm hearing you say is this would actually make a good poetry book club selection.
Oh my God, Lisa. I mean, I would love that. I think, I love the idea of a poetry book group
Mhm.
because people discard poetry uh, as a book group possibility when there's so much to talk about, even sometimes in one poem,
Mhm.
and it takes a lot less time to read it. So,
Exactly. I belong to a group called Gardner Neuro Institute. I'm their poet laureate emeritus there. And we do a poetry book club. And
oh,
we were doing a monthly. This coming year, we're going to do it a little bit different. We actually even had a book fair where people brought their books and talked about and read some of their poems and promoted their books. So, yeah. But no, I think poetry book club where you come, everybody reads the book just like a regular book club, and then we
yeah,
talk
that's
about
great.
different things we liked about it. And wouldn't it be cool if we could bring in the author to talk about their point of
Oh,
view and experience with the book? So don't be surprised if you might be getting an invitation.
I would gladly accept it. It would be an honor. I mean it.
You know, that's how I started doing the poetry podcast, Poet
Hmm.
Talk. Is I would contact different authors of poetry books that I liked. I said, would you like me to do an interview? And
Ah,
that's how I got started. I wanted to
nice.
give poets an opportunity to tell their stories and what goes behind a book and all the ins and outs of it. And a lot of people are curious to know that. And just like I'm curious to know why this book, what inspired this book for you?
Well, there's one word that inspired uh, the collection, because a lot of these poems had already been written or they were in the works. A lot were still in my head, sort of like the queue, ready to come out. You know how poems they sort
Yeah.
of pile up, and then there they are in the middle of
Yep.
the day. Oh my God, I told you to stay inside for a while. But anyway, so there's a word that I read about 7 years ago in some magazine article, I think, and the word was limerence. Limerence, Limerence. And I thought, wow, what a beautiful word that is. And the meaning is it was a fairly new psychological term, and I'll just read it. It's a noun. I looked it up here, and it's the state of being obsessively infatuated with someone, usually accompanied by delusions of or desire for an intense romantic relationship with that person. And I thought, wow, everyone I know has experienced that, really obsessively connecting with someone when they may not connect back and feeling feelings that are so overwhelming, you just don't even know where they're coming from. And you kind of think they're being reciprocated, but they're not. Anyway, someone has a term for it, and it's called limerence. And I loved that. And
Love that word.
I love that word. And then I further looked it up, and it turns out there's 4 stages of limerence. And the stages are infatuation. Of course, we all know that stage. Crystallization, when there is a little bit of reciprocated energy there, when it becomes more real. And then deterioration, and we all know that, it just starts to fall apart. And then ecstatic release, which I thought was also beautiful, when you can finally let go of this limerence situation. So I thought that's it. That's my next collection. I'm going to look at my poems around this. I'm going to finish other ones, and I'm going to order the book in the 4 stages of limerence.
I love it, and you accomplished it beautifully.
Thank you.
And I understand your favorite poem out of the book is the very first poem in the book called She'll Do Anything for Food.
I like that poem, Lisa, because like many of my poems, it came from nowhere. It was given to me as a gift. I just walked outside my office to take a little stroll at lunch, and there was a woman walking her dog, and the dog jumped on me. We've all been through that before, and you just kind of want to say, "Oh, come on," you know. And then she actually says to me, she'll do anything for food. And I thought, I don't want to be this dog's lunch. But at the same time, I couldn't wait to run back upstairs to my computer. And here's what I wrote.
Okay.
Do, shall I read it?
Yes, I'd love you to read it.
She'll do anything for food, the dog walker tells me. She speaks quietly, not wanting to insult her heavy-boned, one blue, one brown-eyed beast tugging at her leash. We did a doggy ancestor test, she confides. Discovered she's part wolf, part miniature poodle. Must be the poodle part, makes her so ravenous. Small creatures are ruthless feeders. Think of enraptured rats gnawing their way through orange trees, babies nursing, sucking so fiercely they can burst a nipple. Think of your heart, size of a throbbing fist, the part of you that will do anything for love.
You know what? There are a lot of us that will do just about anything for love.
I know.
I think that's going to be very relatable to your readers.
Um, yeah, I think that's true. And with so many poems, with most of the poems that I write, I don't really know where it's going. I don't know where it takes me, so it's always a surprise at the end, but somehow it became a poem about your heart, and I do think it's funny that the dog was half whatever it is, half miniature poodle and half wolf. That's hysterical. I mean, that's true. That's what she said to me. So if you're looking for prompts out there, just listen to what people say,
Oh my goodness, yes.
right?
All the time,
Amazing.
every day. Keep your ears open and your eyes open. You'd be
Yes.
surprised what becomes a poem.
It really
Actually,
makes it
okay.
makes life interesting, right?
It really does. You're very observant. When I went to the coffee shop, this morning, worked on some stuff, and there's a lot of stuff I picked up on in there. Some of that's going to make its way into poetry, I'm sure
Yeah,
of it.
great.
It's a part of being a poet. We're like sponges. We
Yeah.
take it all in, and then we have to kind of like squeeze this out, squeeze that out, and find just that right little texture, and then comes out into beautiful poetry. At least you
Mm,
hope it's beautiful
you
poetry. You
hope
gotta get done with it.
you hope so for sure. Yes. Yes.
I know that I think we've talked about this before that I wake up early hours of the morning with a poem in my head. Those are some of the best that come out of the
Yeah.
early morning muse poems.
Yeah, those are those are great. I used to for a long time have them come in the middle of the night,
Mhm.
which was of course disruptive because you awaken, but uh, I would go to the computer and write down exactly what I saw or heard, and then I managed to go back to sleep.
Mhm.
And then I'd wake up in the morning to this gift of whatever I had deposited in the middle of the night, often forgot about. So that was really fun.
Sometimes it's fun to decipher them.
I know, right?
I got
But
up one night and wrote something that came to me, and I went back to it a couple of days later to look at it. I'm like, uh-oh, I can't read some of my own writing.
oh yeah, I stick to the computer, which is too bad because when you write with your hand and a pad, it's so much better. the brain interaction with your hand to the pad. Uh, there's been studies about that, that
Yes,
so, but I just, my handwriting's getting worse and worse. And, you know,
I know.
I
I'm the same way. I still try to write things out, but sometimes I just have to give into the keyboard because it's not the same as we,
no, no,
go into our next phase of life, so to speak. So
yeah, for sure.
used to be a big letter writer. Well, forget that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what kind of promotional things are you doing with your poetry? Do you have some readings scheduled?
Yeah, I have a lot of readings I'm very excited about. A lot of fun. Part of the fun for me of going on a book tour or going out to read is I get to also visit friends and people that I haven't seen in other cities. So
Mhm.
that's a very fun thing. In LA, I've got a bunch of readings here. We have some wonderful independent bookstores. So my first reading will be at Book Soup, which is here on Sunset Boulevard and has been my store since I moved here many years ago. And I'm going to have a lot of guests and friends, poets join me there. But I'm going to Portland to the great store Powell's Books to read with my old friend Karen Carbo, who is such a great writer. She lives in France now, but she lived in Portland for many years, and she's a celebrity there, and people will be thrilled to see her. Um, and then I get to tag along, and she will talk to me about what she wants because she definitely can plug into obsessive love, just like the best of us.
Sure.
Um, and I'll be going to New York, and I'll be going to La Jolla and Chicago. I'll be getting around.
That's wonderful. I mean, that's quite a tour.
Yeah, I'm excited. I need the energy, but I'm
When are you going to start doing all this? Is it going to happen in January?
yeah. So January 14th is the pub date, and I'm going to do Book Soup Monday night before, and then rolling it out through January, February, March, even April, little bits each month. And we have AWP is going to be out here in Los Angeles in March.
Nice.
So all these festival activities around that. And then Los Angeles, we have the LA Times Festival of Books, which has become quite a big thing. That's at the end of April. And there's a great poetry stage run by Elena Carena Byrne. And it's every half hour, there's another poet, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. It's really great. So I'll read on the poetry stage, and I think that'll pretty much end the tour.
Hey, wow. I think you'll be ready for break by then. Wow. Well, best
I'll be
wishes
ready
to
for
you.
prose by then. I'll be no
Uh,
more line breaks for a while.
I think it'll be wonderful. I think
Yeah.
you'll be able to take stacks of books with you because I think you're going to be using that handwriting for a while.
Yeah, really just take a little rest.
They have a program here in little North Carolina, in Durham. I believe it's through. I want to say Duke. Might be wrong about that, so please forgive me, North Carolina, if I got it wrong. But it's called the Ollie program, and it's an opportunity for um, older adults to learn and work on different activities. And I'm pretty sure they have a poetry class out there because one of the women that I know through the Poetry Network here teaches it out there. And but it would be really cool if you could come out here and be a guest lecturer on poetry and do some workshops. So I'll have to do some digging around here and send you some
Lisa, I'm
information.
counting on you. Get me out there. Get me out to North Carolina. I only was there once as a child passing through in the green Ford on our way from New York to Florida when I was a teenager. We had lunch in North Carolina. That's all I can tell you. Can't tell you where or what it was. My parents probably got into an argument, as they always did on every trip. Um, you know, but I know we were in North Carolina. Other than that, I would love to come back. I'd love to do a workshop. I'd love to do a reading.
That'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it'd be
Let's
fantastic.
see what we can find out in the networks out here. There's always something going on with in North Carolina. So yeah, that would be really exciting to actually meet you and go to a presentation. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
I might learn a thing or two.
Oh, I don't know. I might learn a thing or two from you. So we'll just we'll have to meet at that coffee shop.
There you go. And actually, that coffee shop has a used bookstore right next to it, and boy, their
Ah.
collection is amazing. All books for $5. It's wonderful. So, how long have you been writing poetry?
Oh, I've been writing since I was a little girl, but I didn't know what it was really.
Mhm.
But I've always written down little things, little lines. But when I went to college, that was the real moment of when my life changed. I was just very, very lucky to go to a school called Emerson College before it was a big deal, before it was famous and expensive and crazy. It was just a great little liberal arts school in Back Bay, Boston, where the classes were done in these brownstones, and it was heaven. And little did I know that they had this incredible creative writing program run by a great man named Dr. James Randall, who just knew he just hired these brilliant young poets, one of whom was a poet called Thomas Lux. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners know who that is. Great poet. And I had him as a teacher. It was his first class ever and my first poetry class ever. So he was a young man fresh out of University of Iowa writing program. And he just changed my life and probably everyone's life in that class. He declared us all poets. He told us what our job was as poets, and that was it. I was hooked from that day on. Um, so I started writing seriously and sending my poems out at a very young age. And look, that was way back when Anne Sexton was teaching at BU. Can you imagine? I mean, and very sadly, we lost her uh, in the years when I was going to Emerson. So my knowledge of women poets was that it was sad. It was a sad life. I mean, I'll just say that things have changed so much now. But back then, it was a man's world of poetry. Women were few and far between, you know. And so I held my own, and stuck in there. Even taught creative writing at Emerson. They gave me that job for a couple of years, but then I moved to LA, where it was like, gee, I don't want to be depressed. I don't want it to get dark at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I want to go to Disneyland. Um, so, and poetry, but it was ingrained in me because I lived there for 7 years. I already had a beautiful collection of poetry books and poets that I knew. And I was in love with something that literally I gave up for about 15 or 20 years until it came back to me. Um, but and as a matter of fact, when I started writing again, I still was sort of in touch with Tom, and I wrote him and I said, I started writing poems again. I've got so many of them. And he said, the warranty is expired. Of course, he was very funny. And he said, just send me 5 or 6 poems. Let me see what you're doing. And I did. And he said, you still have the humor, you're still whimsical, you're still imaginative, but you've lost the craft. You've got to get back to the craft, and you need to get in a workshop, you need to read a lot of other poets, you need to get back there. And I did just what he said, and I took a workshop in LA every Saturday morning for about 12 years with a great teacher and poet named Terry Wolverton. and a great bunch of people. I went to Sarah Lawrence Summer School for poetry. I went to the Palm Beach Poetry Festival. I really was serious with my full-time job until I could get back to the point where I know what's going on in this poem. I know what it wants to do. I understand the mechanics of it. So there's my story.
Wow. How many books have you published?
This one will be my sixth book. Yeah.
Yes. Is there number 7 coming down the pike?
Oh my, I don't know. I've got all these poems, like we all do.
Oh, sure.
And I have them on my desktop and they're in these folders. I don't know what I was thinking. I have a folder that says poems in play, poems in progress, poems not published. It's like, what's the difference between these folders? I just throw them in. Um, we'll see.
Yeah. Would you like to grace us with another one of your poems? You pick whichever one you'd like to read.
Well, I can read the title poem from the book.
Okay. That'd be
It's
great.
called What She Wants. And so your audience will know it's a very skinny, long poem
Mhm.
with no punctuation and no, only the first word is capitalized, she. And then it
Yeah,
just
we
sort
can
of,
kind of see the layout there.
oh, there you go. That's great. Uh, Sort of is the idea of the book. It's in the infatuation section, as you'll see. But what she wants. She wants to take the rocks out of his pockets, be the puzzle he keeps going back to, the clue that solves it. She wants to be the sweat on his neck, his holiday dinner with 2 kinds of stuffing, the bandage across his chest that stops the bleeding, the wax he drips on his other girlfriend's belly, the breeze through the window, the butter he licks from the corners of his mouth, the only kiss lingering on his lips, the milk in his coffee, the recurring dream he waits for, book he gets lost in, kitten he rescues from the alley. She wants to be the last meal before they flip the switch, and she wants to be the one that pulls him out of the chair, the shoes he wears to escape, the song he sings as they're running.
It's such a delicious poem.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Wow. Well, Kim, you know, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you'd like to share?
You know what my favorite kinds of boots are? I think we haven't talked about that. And no,
Okay.
I no, I there's so much to talk about, but I think we just gave sort of a feel of what this book is, and sort of ordering a book, how ordering a book of poems can help the poet to sort of visualize a theme. A lot of people, I think, get turned off from reading poetry because they don't know, do I read this one first? Do I read that one first? There's no arc, there's no story. So in this book and my previous one, I tried to create an arc. So if you read it from beginning to end, it will tell a story.
Yes.
And yet you could pick it up anywhere and read a single poem and be satisfied with just that poem. So I was very conscious of that. I'm very vigilante about wanting people to love poetry. I was poet laureate of West Hollywood for a couple of years, and it was fun. You start a conversation. Do you like poetry? And inevitably they'll say, no, I don't. It's sort of a conversation stopper. No, I don't like it. I don't read it. And to be able to turn someone around, because these people have never even read a poem except for in a fourth grade class, they were forced to read some horrible thing they didn't understand. The poetry is so much fun, and there's so many different kinds of poems. And so I love being a cheerleader for poetry. And part of what I do when I go out, when I do these signings, inevitably someone will say, oh, I dragged my mother, or I dragged my boyfriend, or I dragged, it's like, thank you for dragging people to come see me. But, and then they'll say, but they loved it. Well, they loved the poetry. And I want to say, of course, because poetry is great.
Well, I think you find poetry is in everything. It is
Yes.
all poetry. When you think about it, it's all there's a poem in every single thing. The poem in my bookmark.
Yeah.
There's a poem in, there's a story
Yes.
behind it. It's holding a place for me that I want to go. So,
Well,
so
I always tell my classes we're journalists in a way. We need to go out and tell a story that's true to our feelings, but that's never been told in that way before.
mhm.
Our job is to show the world new every day. And, you know, uh, it's really true. When you start to see the world that way, you'll find the surprises every day and something worth writing about. So thanks to you and your show and your work, you're making people aware, and I'm grateful to you for that.
Well, I'm grateful to you for coming and being a part of this. And I wish you the best with your book
Thank
and
you.
that you have so many requests for signatures that you'll have to print another batch. So,
Well, I'll be sending you one as soon as I get the real
oh,
books.
thank
So,
you. That's such an
well,
honor. Thank you so much.
well, thank you for having me, Lisa, and have a happy holiday.
You as well. Thank you. Thank you so much.
See you soon.
All right, thanks.